Imagine this for a moment. The U.S. Senate has just approved nearly $70 billion in new funding for immigration enforcement and border security. That's not a small policy change. That's one of the biggest investments in border enforcement in modern American history. Supporters say it's necessary to secure the border and restore control over illegal immigration. Critics, however, warn that it could dramatically expand deportation operations across the country. So why is Washington fighting so fiercely over this bill? Where will this money actually go? And could this decision reshape America's immigration system for years to come? In today's video, we're breaking down the politics, the money, and the real-world impact behind this massive Senate vote. Is this a historic border security investment? Or the beginning of America's largest immigration crackdown? The answer could affect millions of people across the United States. So, what exactly happened in the United States? The U.S. Senate has approved a massive immigration enforcement bill that includes nearly $70 billion in new funding. Most of this money will go to ICE and Border Patrol, helping them hire more officers, expand detention facilities, and strengthen border operations. Republicans say this funding is essential to secure America's borders and reduce illegal immigration. However, Democrats argue that several parts of the bill are too aggressive and could negatively affect migrant communities. The vote was largely divided along party lines, showing how controversial immigration remains in U.S. politics. But here's the important part. The bill is not law yet. It must still pass through the House of Representatives before reaching the president's desk. The big question now is, will the House approve this historic immigration package, or will political divisions slow it down? Now see a video and then you will understand what it means for Trump.
I had a really good time today.
Yeah, me too. I really look.
What are you doing?
She's coming with us.
What are you talking about? Who are you?
I'm your Republican congressman. Now that we're in charge, we're rounding up illegals.
She was born here. She's a citizen.
I don't care. She looks like one of them. But don't worry. When she's in prison in El Salvador, she'll have lots of company.
Now, you decide what kind of shit is this fund? Well, but why is this bill attracting so much attention? The answer is simple. This could become the largest immigration enforcement investment in recent U.S. history. If approved, the funding would support immigration enforcement efforts for the rest of President Trump's term. That means more ICE operations, more Border Patrol resources, and a larger enforcement presence across the country. Republicans argue that illegal immigration remains a major national security challenge and that stronger enforcement is necessary to protect America's borders. Supporters believe the government needs more manpower, technology, and detention capacity to control border crossings effectively. However, critics see things differently. They argue that immigration problems cannot be solved through enforcement alone, and that the bill does not do enough to address long-term immigration reform. In other words, this debate is not just about money. It's about two very different visions for America's immigration future. But this vote was about much more than immigration funding. Inside the Senate, Republicans and Democrats clashed over how America should handle its border challenges. Republicans argued that border security must remain a top national priority and pushed for stronger enforcement measures. Democrats, on the other hand, sought additional oversight and accountability provisions, saying such a large amount of funding should come with stricter monitoring. Several Democratic amendments were ultimately rejected, leading to hours of intense debate on the Senate floor. The discussion once again showed why immigration remains one of the most controversial issues in American politics. And perhaps most importantly, the vote exposed the deep partisan divide in Washington, a divide that is likely to play a major role in upcoming elections and future policy battles. But there's another reason this vote matters so much. It directly strengthens President Trump's immigration agenda. Since returning to office, the Trump administration has made deportations and border enforcement a top priority. This bill would provide the funding needed to expand those operations across the country. Trump's allies are already calling the Senate vote a major political victory, arguing that it helps deliver on key campaign promises related to immigration and border security. Supporters see it as proof that the administration is taking action on one of its biggest election issues. Critics, however, warn that the additional funding could lead to more aggressive enforcement measures and increased deportation efforts. So for both supporters and opponents, this bill is about much more than money. It's about the future direction of U.S. immigration policy. But immigration funding wasn't the only issue causing controversy. A separate $1.8 billion settlement fund became one of the most debated parts of the broader package. Critics labeled it an anti-weaponization fund and argued that it could benefit individuals or groups aligned with President Trump. Several lawmakers tried to block the funding or redirect the money elsewhere, but their efforts failed during the Senate debate. What's interesting is that concerns didn't come only from Democrats. Some Republicans also questioned parts of the proposal. As the arguments intensified, this dispute nearly stole the spotlight from the immigration bill itself. In short, while border security dominated the headlines, the fight over this $1.8 billion fund became a major political battle of its own. So, what could change if this bill officially becomes law? The most immediate impact would be a major expansion of immigration enforcement across the United States. ICE could launch larger operations, while Border Patrol would gain additional resources, technology, and personnel. The government could hire thousands of new enforcement officers, and deportation capacity may increase significantly. At the same time, immigration courts and processing systems could face greater pressure as more cases move through the system. Supporters believe these measures would strengthen border security and help reduce illegal immigration. Critics, however, warn that aggressive enforcement could raise concerns about civil liberties, due process, and the treatment of migrant communities. In short, if enacted, this legislation could reshape how immigration enforcement operates across America for years to come. But the real story goes far beyond this single bill. Immigration has become one of the defining issues in American politics. Republicans are making border security a central part of their political message, while Democrats continue to push for oversight, accountability, and broader immigration reforms. Now, all eyes turn to the House of Representatives, where the bill's future will be decided. The outcome could influence U.S. immigration policy for years and shape how America approaches border security, enforcement, and legal immigration. Because at its core, this debate is no longer just about immigration. It's about what kind of country America wants to be and what priorities will define its future. Supporters call this a historic investment in border security. Critics call it the biggest expansion of immigration enforcement in decades. But one thing is certain: the debate over immigration is no longer just about the border. It's about America's future, its economy, and its national identity. The House vote is still ahead, and the outcome could shape U.S. immigration policy for years to come. So what do you think? Is this $70 billion package necessary for America's security, or does it go too far? Let us know in the comments. If you found this analysis useful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned to 1% USA Trends for more global news and deep insights. Thanks for watching.